The first 4 Bond films had been annual events, but there would be a 2-year gap between 1965's mega-successful Thunderball and this film. In the meantime, a slew of Bond imitators had filled cinemas, including one that was very dangerous, a semi-official spoof featuring 5 James Bonds. But only one film in 1967 starred Sean Connery as James Bond, You Only Live Twice. You Only Live Twice, based on Ian Fleming's last novel, sees Bond going to Japan, turning Japanese. Yes, he's turning Japanese. I really think so. After Connery found it impossible to negotiate a new contract with intransigent producers Cubby Broccoli and Harry Saltzman, he announced that the 5th Bond would also be his last. History has taught us to disregard farewell tours, but at the time, it was felt by some that this could be the end of the road for James Bond. You Only Live Twice had a screenplay by Roald Dahl, whose short stories were popular, but he wasn't quite the literary giant he was to become. No chocolate factories, BFGs, or literal giant peaches just yet. Dahl famously espoused a theory about Bond women, and that is Bond should encounter 3 different women each movie. A pro-Bond woman, who would die preferably after banging Bond, and an anti-Bond woman, who he would turn to the side of light, they would bang, and then she would die. And then finally, a pro-Bond woman who wouldn't succumb to his charm, so no banging, until the end of the film. You can probably extrapolate what Dahl thought happened to them after the film. As a theory, though, it holds less water than a shot glass, since it's implied that Bond beds more than 3 women during the course of this film, and none of those are Miss Moneypenny.
I love you.
The film starts off with Bond being killed. The end.
Well, at least he died on the job. He'd have wanted it this way.
James Bond won't return. No, I tell a lie. It's a ruse to throw off Spectre. Somebody's been space-jacking Russian and American space capsules in orbit, and tensions are rising between the US and the USSR, who, at the time, weren't the best friends and allies they were to become around, 2016. The British government thinks the spacejackers are operating from Japan, so James Bond goes on his first mission to Japan, where he does all the really Japanese things. Now, this was a time where anything Japanese in a movie that was not directly related to World War II was a massive deal. It was glamorous and exciting. At the time, sushi was just something foreigners ate. Nintendo had only just started moving into toys, and anime wasn't yet the reason to have no friends. Japanese culture was pretty sexy to Ted and Ethel at 57 Buxton Row. In Japan, Bond is assisted by M's Japanese counterpart Tiger Tanaka.
I love you.
Played, like all the Japanese roles, by actual Japanese actors for a change. Bond is assisted by Aki, who dies, threatened by Helga, who dies, and finally marries, under false pretenses, Agent Kissy Suzuki. Bond's travels around Japan see him do the following: escape from a pursuing car by having a helicopter grab it with a giant magnet, battle a fleet of enemy helicopters in a tricked-out gyrocopter, Little Nelly, and visit a ninja training school.
This is my ninja training school.
Which was a pretty exciting new concept for filmgoers outside of Japan in 1967.
Rocket guns. Very powerful. See the little holes in the back for jet propulsion.
The film's coup de grace, and possibly the thing it added most to pop culture, was that the villain's base is inside a hollowed-out volcano, something that has been parodied so much that even the well-worn jokes about volcanic layers from The Simpsons and Austin Powers are now over 2 decades old. At the heart of the volcano is the head of Spectre, Ernst Stavro Blofeld, and oh, look at the little kitty cat! And for the first time, we see Blofeld's face.
I am Ernst Stavro Blofeld.
Donald Pleasance was a last-minute sub for the part of Blofeld, playing him as rather small and weak, but his voice is creepier than a tarantula-only conference on spiders.
They told me you were assassinated in Hong Kong.
Yes, this is my second life.
You only live twice, Mr. Bond.
Other actors were to play Blofeld, none of whom look anything like Pleasance's version, nor do they act at all similar. But this Blofeld was the one that stuck with the public. Hence,
$1 million!
This is the price of failure, Mr. Bond.
Blofeld, however, is a lousy shot. After appearing to be dosed up with horse tranquilizers all the way through Thunderball, Connery puts in a much better performance as Bond, even though the shoot in Japan was plagued by intrusive journalists.
I love you.
Bond is an expert in everything.
Especially when it's served at the correct temperature. 98.4 degrees Fahrenheit, like this is.
Like that irritating guy who ruins your barbecue by insisting you do all these weird things he saw in cooking videos on YouTube, like washing your hands. Tetsuro Tamba as Tanaka makes for a charming M substitute.
In Japan, men always come first, women come second.
I might just retire to here.
And of the Japanese women, Akiko Wakabayashi's Aki has great chemistry with Connery's Bond.
No one will disturb you tonight.
Mihama as Bond's fake wife Kissy is the smaller role of the two female roles, and the actress makes a decent stab of resisting Bond's charms, though there's less obvious spark.
We're supposed to be married.
Think again, please. You gave false name to priest.
Yes, but we must keep up appearances. We're on our honeymoon.
No honeymoon. This is business.
The two actresses swapped roles during production when it was felt that Hama's limited English skills would work better in the smaller role. Well, you could have fooled me. While product placement had been part of Bond ever since Fleming name-dropped luxury brands in his novels to display Bond's impeccable taste, the film series became, eventually, notorious for flashing logos of various companies, particularly Sony during its time as distributor. Well, here is probably the first time Sony got their logo in a Bond film. Thank God this is my last one. You Only Live Twice has a rather unique and memorable theme tune sung by Nancy Sinatra, and the film is accompanied by a beautiful score by composer John Barry. Director Lewis Gilbert makes good use of the locations and of Ken Adams' massive volcano set. Well, that's definitely the last time I'll be doing this shit. As each Bond film had become more and more successful, the temptation to copy the formula was too tempting for other producers who wanted to cash in on Bond mania, and there was an explosion of spy-themed TV series and movies. We ended up with multiple franchises of varying success, with James Coburn as Derek Flint, Dean Martin as Matt Helm, Michael Caine as Harry Palmer, and even a film starring Sean Connery's brother Neil. Neil Connery was not an actor, but he had the magic name, Neil. And then on TV there were The Avengers, I Spy, Mission Impossible, Department S, Man from U.N.C.L.E., Man in a Suitcase, The Champions, Get Smart, Callan, The Prisoner. You couldn't go 5 minutes without seeing something greenlit because of the success of James Bond. It's like when Kenner hit it big with smaller action figures based on Star Wars, and all of a sudden all action figures were scaled down to match Star Wars toys. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. It's also highly profitable. In the 1960s, if you had an aversion to spy capers, you were shit out of luck. In 1967, there was an even bigger confluence when there was not one, but two James Bond films based on Ian Fleming's works, with the big-budget all-star car crash hot mess of 1967's Casino Royale also being released. If you want to see what a film where everybody is having their worst day, watch 1967's Casino Royale. Casino Royale is the answer to the question, what's the name of both the best and worst James Bond film? In 1967, You Only Live Twice was the winner, both critically and at the box office, but it made less money than Thunderball had, and over time has acquired a reputation as a watchable but ordinary Bond entry. Like how Pepsi Max isn't very good, but people still drink it whenever they go to Pizza Hut.
I suppose you know what it is about you that fascinates them. It's the hair on your chest. Japanese men all have beautiful bare skin.
Tiger, you're a real sometimes. You Only Live Twice is a film of both good and bad, super cool and super ridiculous. While casting Japanese actors in Japanese parts was a step up from Dr. No, the script has Bond disguised as a Japanese man. Look, I'll wear the wig, but I won't do the accent. Something that is probably not only offensive, but also ridiculous. At the end of the film, Connery had officially taken his final bow as James Bond, hanging up his Walter PPK, tuxedo, and toupee, which meant that if there were to be more James Bond films, then a new actor would have to be found to play the coveted role. I wonder how that's going to turn out. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below, or check out some of our other videos.